Hello everyone, good day. I will try to make moussaka. I'm sorry about my voice, I just had the flu and I'm trying to get over it. So if I cough or whatever, I might sound a bit strange, and just letting you know. So I'll start with, first thing, cut aubergine or eggplant or however you want to call it, and then I'll show you what's next. So first thing first, I'm gonna slice my eggplant. Now I like to slice it not too thin and not too thick, so about an inch thick, and just slice it into pieces, all of it, as much as you can. You don't need the edges, but just the actual meat part of it. Now once you cut the aubergine or eggplant, as you want to call it, I put it on a paper towels just to let it dry. As well, I put salt on each one of them and just let it, because we need to let it all dry out before we start cooking it, so no moist will be in the actual eggplant. So I do both sides. I do it like this, and then I just rub some salt all around it, and then I do the other side and let it all dry out, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's dry. Now when the eggplants are drying, in the meantime, I'm going to cut some potatoes about the same size. So I like to cut potatoes about an inch thick, so they'll be even with the same as the eggplants, and then we're gonna fry them afterwards. Now with the potatoes or the spuds, however you want to call it, I like to put a little bit of salt on it, and then once we put some salt on it, it's just very simple. I'm just going to put some olive oil. I'm just going to drizzle some olive oil, maybe let it cook for about 15 minutes, and just let it soften enough for you to just put it all together. Now while you're cooking the potatoes, I just like to cut one red onion, and I'll add it to the turkey. I'm making turkey tonight with my moussaka. I just chose turkey, but you can use any meat you choose. You can use beef, you can use lamb. Greek people like to use beef and lamb. I just decided to use turkey because it's lean and that's what we like to eat in this house. So I'll show you afterwards what I do with everything once it's cooked. So with the red onions or shallots or however you want to call it, I like to use some mushrooms. So I'm using some Swiss brown mushrooms, and I'm just going to cut them up. And a carrot I'm just gonna clean up and cut up to small as well, so we can add it all together to our meat once we're done. So once we take out the potatoes out of the oven, they just need to be soft. They don't have to be fully cooked, and we're just gonna put it on a plate for now till we're ready to assemble the rest of it. And then I'm gonna start cutting the onions and carrots and mushrooms, and I'm just gonna show you what it looks once that's done. So once I put it on my hot plate and I'm gonna cook it for half an hour, I left the oil that was left from the potatoes underneath and just let it cook for half an hour, and then I'll show you the results. Alright, now that we cooked our onions and everything else in here, we're just going to set it aside for when we get the meat and everything together, and we'll get to our eggplants next. Now that our eggplant has dried up a bit, we just want to soak the rest of the water in it. We know it's ready when it becomes slightly brown. That way you know that the water has settled, and we can just clean it properly. So what people do a lot of the time, they'll wash it and then we just sit it down for a little bit longer, but because I'm short on time, I just like to take out all the excess water and this fried. So I'll show you guys once it's fried what it's supposed to look like. So what I do is I take my eggplant and I use the oil, that's excess oil that I have in, and I just spread it on here, and if I need more I'll add more oil and just put it all on the plate so I can cook it. And I normally cook it for 15 minutes, see how it looks. If it looks soft then I add longer, but yeah, usually it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. Now with the turkey, I like to spread it all over the plate. I use ground turkey, that's what I like to use, and then I just add some little bit of salt and a little bit of olive oil and just cook it for 15 minutes till it's mostly cooked. And then we need to drain the water out so it doesn't become soggy when we done it. So once we got the meat on the plate, so before we cook this, I just add a little bit of salt, a little bit of olive oil, just a drizzle all over, and then I cook it for on 80 degrees for 15 minutes. And in between I like to break the meat up just so we will have another one whole meat, so we can just use it when we need it. Okay. So because I don't have a frying pan, I'm just using my convection oven. I break my meat up every 5 minutes and then put it back in the oven to cook for another 5 minutes till it's all cooked, all even to the end. Now that I finished cooking my meat, I just need to drain all the water and oils out of it so I can assemble it all together and make the meat sauce. Alright, so now we dried all our meat and we didn't have any more moist in it. We're just going to add all the onions and mushrooms and carrots together all into one bowl, and we're just going to make the meat sauce. So I like to put all the onions and everything in there, and then I use tomato sauce. And now with tomato sauce, it doesn't matter how much you want to put in, it's all up to you. It's all in your taste buds and whatever you like to do. So I use some chicken barbecue spice as well. Doesn't matter how much you use. Anything you like to use, you just put in there. And then I'll show you as well. I like to add wine to my sauce. Just makes it a bit better taste. And then I'll show you once I'm all done how does it look. Now before we start the white sauce, I'm just going to assemble the base and the top part. So first thing I'm going to do is put in my potatoes and my eggplant afterwards. Now we laid our potato, we're just going to put in our eggplant on top of it. Just like that. Once we got one layer of eggplants and potatoes, we're just going to put in the meat on top. One layer of meat first. And then we're going to put another layer of eggplant as well. Now once you got the first layer of meat, I just try to make sure there's no spaces and gaps in between. And then we're going to layer our next part of it, another layer of eggplant and just another layer of meat, as much as whatever's left over. And then we're going to start our white sauce. Now before you start the white sauce, I would just try to even everything out so everything's going to fit on the plate once we finish. So because I don't have a way to show you how to make the white sauce. I'm just gonna tell you here before I start doing it, because I'm using a rice cooker, but you can use a just an ordinary bowl to do it. I would use about a cup of milk and some flour, maybe half a cup to a cup of flour, and I use mozzarella cheese to melt all with it. And then Greeks like to use nutmeg, but because I don't have nutmeg, I'm not using any. And maybe some salt, and then I'll show you once it's assembled what it looks like. So I would like it to be a nice and not gloopy, so we try to mix it all up, and I'll show you what it looks like once we're done. Now I finished my white sauce, and what you wanted to make sure it's not sticky or gloopy, and just make it all shiny and easy to use. And we're just gonna pour it on top of our meat. So I got my meat right here and my sauce, and we're just gonna pour it all over it, and we're just gonna put it all evenly all over the meat as much as we can. Just try to spread it out like you're making a cake, and just try to get all the sides everywhere evenly. So when we put in our oven, we're all cooked in one lot. Also, what I like to do is as well, once I put my white sauce on, I just like to put a little bit more mozzarella on the top and just let it cook. And I'll show you guys once I cook it for 15 minutes on 180, or even less if you like. I think even if you do it for 10 minutes, it should be all ready. And I'll show you in a minute. Alright, now I finished all my moussaka, as far as I can tell. I'm just gonna show you more or less what it looks like from the inside. Just gonna try to get some out, and then show you what is my moussaka is like. Add some potatoes, and that's how I make a moussaka. Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed my long video. I know it was a long one, but it was worth it in my eyes at least. So bon appetit, enjoy your week, and have a good time. Thank you. Bye.